this is insanity. Something needs to be done. Like, do I still care about this at all?
I was about to ask you what your sign is because
Sag. Stubborn.
things are clocking. The dots are connecting.
Yeah. It's funny because I actually got on the Today Show as a mixology instructor, and they were like, this is April from Swig and Swallow. And I don't even think we had a website.
So if we wanted to find you, that's it. That's what you get. So I already finished this. I want more.
Oh, yeah, you got it. Absolutely.
So good.
Marker, comment mark.
If you've ever had a business idea that didn't go exactly as planned, or you're thinking about starting over, you're in good company. Because for April Wachtel, the end is where everything began. After years in hospitality and one failed startup, she built Cheeky Cocktails, a now nationwide brand bringing bar-quality drinks to home bartenders everywhere. In this conversation, April shares what it takes to start over, scale smart, and build a brand that is as bold as its flavor. April, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm so excited, not just because you brought the good, but also to learn more about your story, to learn more about Cheeky Cocktails.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You were 17 years in hospitality, am I right with
Yep.
that number?
Mhm.
How did that influence you wanting to then go into starting your own business?
I think like many entrepreneurs, like I wanted to be an entrepreneur since I was like a little kid.
Oh, wow.
Probably simply because I just didn't want to listen to anyone else's rules. You know, I'm like, I want to like make my own rules here.
Yeah.
But I also was just really curious about testing ideas and then seeing how people responded to them. So when I was a little kid, I had, ideas for a carbonated water with maple syrup because I'm from Vermont, like some wooden shoes because my dad was a carpenter, all these sort of ideas. And fast forward many years, after I'd accumulated all of this experience in hospitality, I was like, well, what things do I love doing? Am I uniquely qualified to, potentially launch a business in, and where do I really have a chance to sort of shine? So I grew up in food, beverage, hospitality. I came up through the craft cocktail world, and eventually I ended up teaching cocktail classes to over 12,000 students.
Oh, wow.
And in that time, I realized that, all these consumers, they want to make great cocktails in the home, but they just didn't have the time. They might not have the knowledge or the ingredients to do so. And so that kind of got the wheels turning in my brain. And after years of sort of thinking this through and looking at the market and seeing what opportunities there might be, I decided to start my own brand, which eventually became Swig and Swallow, the refrigerated mixer company. And then in 2020, I relaunched Swig and Swallow as Cheeky Cocktails, which is bar quality syrups and juices for the home and bar. I think in my mind, I was like, I'm going to build $1 billion company, and I still have that aspiration, by the way.
I can't wait to be able to come back and talk to you in a few years, and you're there already with Cheeky Cocktails.
Hey, when you launch the Big Business podcast, hopefully I'll be one of your first guests.
This is big business.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's try this. I'm so excited.
Okay. Cheers.
Cheers. This is so refreshing and nice. What syrup are you using for this one?
So it's our cranberry lemon syrup. So we only use 100% real juices, fresh product, only natural sugars.
I really like that this just tastes good. I feel like I'm, I'm not just drinking water or some type of soda.
This is one of the ways that people use them, just as a sort of like hint of subtle flavor. We have 9 different flavors currently, and I chose those flavors because they are ingredients in 30 of the top 50 cocktails in the world. So I chose syrups and juices that are super versatile, such that they could mix with any of the foolproof or non-alc spirits that exist on the market.
I was about to say, pour me more because I'm done. Let's talk about Swig and Swallow.
Yes.
And the lessons you learned from that. What was Swig and Swallow?
I launched the first version of Swig and Swallow as just because I was interested in understanding what it took to become an entrepreneur. And at the time, I was a brand ambassador for Bacardi. So I was gainfully employed and I just had some spare time. And I was like, I'll just file the paperwork. So fast forward, then I'm like, okay, well, you need a logo. And then like, well, what's the business actually? And it's funny because I actually got on the Today Show as a mixology instructor. And they were like, this is April from Swig and Swallow. And I don't even think we had a website.
So if we wanted to find you, That's it. That's what you get.
Yeah. And then eventually I landed on a cocktail batching and delivery service because I knew that in the event space, it was impossible to execute craft cocktails for huge groups and maintain the quality. So I had a lot of customers based on, my relationships within the spirits industry and catering companies. And so I was profitable from day one. I didn't hold any overhead. And then eventually I decided I had a brilliant idea where I was like, I'm going to make this a consumer packaged good where it's like an actual brand, not knowing that what that meant is then all of a sudden you've got to pay all this money to like invest in inventory and invest in branding and invest in marketing and all these other things that I never had to pay for. And then typically you don't get paid for a while. And we also just had no idea what we were doing, to be honest, in terms of branding.
Just to really understand the complete journey of Swig and Swallow, you decided to completely scrap it and start anew. Am I correct in saying that?
Well, not exactly.
Okay.
So funny enough, so I don't actually like consider it to be a failed business. I consider it to be versions 1 through like 10 of what is now Cheeky.
Okay.
That's just again a mindset thing. I launched it 2014, 2015. That was when I first sort of started dabbling. Again, ran that for probably 4.5 years or so. In 2019, we had this like catastrophic manufacturing
2019?
run. 2019.
Okay.
Which at that point I said, okay, hit the brakes. This is insanity. Something needs to be done. Like, do I still care about this at all?
Wait, but what was the event?
It was a production run. Like, we just had not gotten any closer to product market fit. We had a production run where the breakage was higher than normal. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I come from the restaurant industry where you go through a tremendous amount of duress and you're on your feet for, 13 to 15 hours. And I was like, even for us, this is ridiculous.
It sounds like I feel like I'm talking to an athlete.
Well, I was a competitive athlete for many years growing up.
You know what? That makes sense. I was about to ask you what your sign is because
Sag, stubborn.
things are clocking. The dots are connecting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happened in that journey that took you to Cheeky Cocktails?
One of the challenges and one of the reasons that I switched from a refrigerated product to a shelf-stable product is because it is a hot mess trying to ship refrigerated product anywhere. It is not a great experience for the recipient. And we were getting orders for Swig and Swallow on Amazon. Like, obviously, if you want something terribly badly and you're willing to deal with that sort of kind of unpleasant unboxing experience, fine. But in the mixer space, I just realized that was non-standard and I think not worth the sort of like negative brand aspects. Because again, people open, they're like, oh, this thing, look, the ice pack's melted and like, how long has it been melted? And a lot of these questions. And I was like, need to really think through all of this. And then at the end of this, 2-3 month period, I was like, no, I still think there's a massive opportunity. I still love being in pursuit of realizing this dream that I have. And I think it's really worthwhile. And like, I think that we have the ability to like put a product out in the world that people love and will continue to love. And so then pulled everything apart, put it back together in 2020, and then launched into the first wave of COVID in March of 2020.
That was an opportunity, I feel, especially for Cheeky Cocktails. Tell me about that.
We were going to launch in April or later. I didn't even have branding. So essentially when I realized that COVID is happening, I'm like, we have to go faster. So I slapped together the labels. I slapped together the website. I took all the photos of the bottles. I did all the editing. I'd already taught myself like Photoshop and all the stuff before that.
Nice.
I was hand sanitizing and juicing and cutting, by the way, every single piece of citrus. I was doing all the syrups. I was bottling everything, labeling everything, casing everything up. There probably could not have been a more perfect time to launch because, one of the biggest issues for any business is getting enough visibility, getting your product out there from a sales and marketing perspective. And the fact that there was exponential inbound for like a year and a half, every single day we had, corporations looking to place orders for like anywhere from 10 to like 1,000 kits. I think we did like $200,000 in like 4 months when it was just me doing it. Like it was wild. So then Amazon came into Cheeky's life probably 2 years into the business. I think we launched initially FBA because we took advantage of the Vine program.
Okay.
And that was incredibly helpful because we know of the various reasons that people turn to Amazon. They want like an objective review of the product and they want to know there's like a database of reviews that are accurate.
Yes.
And so the Vine program enabled us to send our product to folks who would give objective reviews, and then those reviews would be, would live in our store. And so that was a great way to jumpstart.
It feels very intentional, like you've really thought about these things and tested things out. What are some of the tests you've run that you have learned from the most when it comes to being able to sell cheeky cocktails through Amazon?
The recent test of switching the espresso syrup back to FBA. With FBM, like, we fulfill it ourselves. But one of the downsides of FBM is that in order for us not to be late shipping stuff, I think it says like we'll ship product and it'll arrive like 5 to 10 days or something.
Which is
exactly
a big thing.
As a customer, people don't want that.
Right.
So one of the things I wanted to test is like with the espresso, I was like, we have high enough velocity and high enough margin. I want to switch the 16-ounce espresso to FBA and see if access to Prime changes people's buying patterns. And indeed it has. So I know the next product that will switch over to FBA as well, because I really do think in this testing experience, the answer is clear. It's like if people can get it faster, they're gonna buy it more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a customer myself, I can tell you.
Me too, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
What would you tell younger entrepreneurs about how they can maybe have that same type of grit to keep going with the hard times? Because when you're an entrepreneur, there's a lot of hard times.
Mm-hmm. I think that every kid should experience competitive athletics.
Me too.
It just teaches you, if you want the good things in life, you've got to work for it.
Yeah.
And I think it also teaches you the resilience. I think that all of those things really just taught me, like, if you're willing to invest a ridiculous amount of time and effort, you can achieve so much. There's all these small tests that are put in front of you as an entrepreneur. And when you pass through the small tests, you get to the bigger tests. And from my perspective, yes, I'm trying to build a $1 billion company. Does the money actually matter to me? Really not at all. It's really about the journey of becoming. And I think that there is no better character building activity that you can engage in than one in which you're faced with these crucibles that require strategy, intelligence, tenacity, and reframing and rewiring your brain to survive through those negative experiences. Like, there's no better thing to become like the best version of yourself than to force yourself to go through discomfort.
Since I was very little, I was an athlete as well. And I think that influenced a lot of how I see the world, how I go into any challenge that is presented to myself. So I completely agree with that. But what if I didn't? It sounds like to me from what you're saying is then it really is just, you gotta be willing to work hard, which I don't want to oversimplify it, but that's what it is. You gotta be willing to do the hard thing.
Entrepreneurship is not for 99.999% of people.
Agreed.
Most people don't have even remotely close to the stomach for it. There's tremendous risk. Nothing is guaranteed. The only thing that's guaranteed is you're going to suffer a ton. Like a ton.
Yeah.
And it's going to take way longer than you would ever have expected to get where you're trying to go. I heard somebody who's very experienced in the beverage industry who said, if I were speaking to an aspiring beverage entrepreneur, I would honestly try to convince them not to start this type of business. And he said, because here's the thing, the odds are so stacked against you. And he said, but if you even have a chance of discouraging them and convincing them not to start, they should never have started in the first place. And I believe that to the nth degree. Now, we all have low moments where you might be more susceptible to negative feedback. But like, if somebody's words in a short conversation could convince you to alter your dream, you have no business doing it in the first place. You could be perfectly qualified and a perfect fit to do a million other things, but not something that requires this amount of grit and stamina.
I think I agree with that. Absolutely. I was in the theater world for a while and I wanted to be a director, an actor, etc. And one of the things that my professors told me in college was, if you could literally see yourself doing anything else, do that. Because then you're not going to have what it takes for how hard this is.
But I think that statement, to your point, applies to anybody on a creative journey or any journey that requires you to sort of single-handedly or with like a small cohort of people push an idea forward, moving a boulder uphill. Any pursuit like that, it's the same thing. Like, if you wouldn't be willing to do this for no money for a really long time, like, don't do it. Not worth it.
April, tell me, what's next for Cheeky Cocktails? What are exciting things should we expect?
Yeah. Well, so internally, one exciting thing is that we are raising our second seed round. And the reason this is exciting, it may sound kind of boring, but the reason this is exciting is because it will allow us to invest in certain initiatives, like investing in Amazon, for example. Another of the initiatives that we will be using that money for is we are launching a low sugar prebiotic canned carbonated line, which is very exciting. We'll probably also launch a spritz, and then we'll probably also launch a low sugar prebiotic grapefruit soda. Anyway, the point is that they're all bitter. They're all intended to be consumed in the same context as you would like an adult beverage.
Okay.
But you can do it with or without alcohol.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Cheers again.
Thank you.
Was
Cheers again. Thank you so much for having me.
great to have you on This is Small Business. Hope we have you back when you're in your
Yes,
billion-dollar
yes.
category.
Oh yeah, I'll be your first one. Yeah.
This is big business. That's it for this episode of This is Small Business, brought to you by Amazon. If you're into stories about what it's really like to build a brand, grow online, and keep up with everything entrepreneurship throws your way, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next episode. I'd also love to hear from you, so drop a comment and tell us your biggest takeaway or what part of this conversation inspired you most. Until next time, hasta luego, and thanks for watching.